I know our default behavior for most of us is we let inertia take over and we let the feelings continue to dictate our actions, right? What I'm asking you to do, what Haley's asking you to do, what we're challenging you to do, and ourselves is when you feel a certain way and you're not loving how you feel, instead of letting yourself ruminate in those feelings, immediately think, what action can I take right now to change how I feel? That's the goal, right? That's what we want you to do. That's what I ask of myself and clients, right? Instead of letting the feelings dictate, what can I do right now to change how I feel? What action can I take?
Adam, you're looking great as always. Fantastic to be here with you. And today I thought we could discuss, there's been kind of this low hum, few people mentioning having a lot of feelings about things, and it seems to be getting in the way. Have you noticed this?
For sure. I don't feel
Yeah.
committed. I feel overwhelmed. I feel stressed. I feel like this isn't a priority. I feel.
Yeah.
If this was a movie, the music would get faster and faster, and there would just be more and more examples.
It'd be like a melodrama, a musical melodrama, right? Because you have to have music when the feelings exceed what words can express.
There you go. Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, there's been a few come through, and it's like, wow, like, I get it. Like, I'm not trying to diminish it, right? Sometimes feelings feel like a vice, and it's a really tricky place to be, right? Because it's almost paralyzing when those feelings get so big and so hard to see your way out of that you just stop. You just stop doing anything. So I thought maybe we could kind of dig this up a little bit today, offer some recommendations on if you might be feeling this way, stuck in your feelings, on how to get beyond that. What do you say?
I love it. I totally agree. I think this is an important topic. And it does feel like sometimes, we're in a groove, we have momentum, and then suddenly these feelings get in the way, right? And, these pesky feelings. Got to, figure out how to live with them and move around them or move through them.
Yes. Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you're not going to get very far, right? It's definitely something, just a personal note I work on with my daughter in particular. From time to time, she really struggles with anxiety. And her first request is, let me stay home. Let me just not go to school. She just wants to hide out. And, as best we can, we support her working through those feelings and continuing to live her life, because there are so many opportunities out there for her to grow and learn and to get better at it. So, I do think it's really important that we're all working on how to take action despite how we feel.
Yes, exactly.
So do you want to lead off giving some examples, kind of talking through some more specifics here?
Yes, I'm going to share one point that if you take anything away from this video, at least let it be this. It is much easier to act your way into a new way of feeling than it is to feel or think your way into a new way of acting. I'll say that again, just in case. It is much easier to act your way into a new way of feeling or thinking than it is to think or feel your way into a new way of acting. You can think and feel all day long, but nothing rarely is going to change by doing that. It is so much easier if you act first, then let the feelings follow. So what I mean by that, you could feel like a slug, right? You don't feel like moving, you don't feel like exercising, you don't feel like doing anything. You can think and ruminate on this for hours and hours. But there's also a part of you that can just put your sneakers on and go for a walk. And once you start moving, once you start acting, then almost always the positive feelings follow. That's what I mean.
Okay. I like this. I also think when you're talking about this, right, sometimes what I feel like those overwhelming and kind of paralyzing feelings and thoughts end up doing to us is kind of painting us in all one color, right? Like, let me see if I can come up with an example. You offered the exercise example when you're feeling like a slug. What if it's like, all right, the end of the day, I always get sugar cravings, right? Like this is me taking on some of the work I do with my clients. They always get sugar cravings. I'm just a person who craves sugar at night. It's going to happen. And sure enough, right? Those feelings come up night after night after night, right? And if we just let the feelings dictate that we keep taking the same actions, then we're letting feelings dictate who we are, right? Like painting us all one color. Well, that's just me. I get cravings at night and I eat sugar. Versus if we're willing to take even the smallest of actions and saying, okay, I get cravings at night, I eat sugar, but maybe I can try a piece of fruit first, right? Then all of a sudden we're adding a different color or a different dimension of who we are, right? Because we're not just pigeonholing ourselves as somebody who gives into cravings and eats sugar every single night. Does
Exactly
that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, exactly right. And the reality is it's our actions that actually dictate our feelings, not the other way around, not the other way around, right? It's our
Right.
actions that dictate our feelings. But the tricky part is when we feel so long, when we feel a feeling for a long time and we don't change our actions, or we continue acting the way we have, the actions are just going to perpetuate those feelings. So in your example with the fruit, there are plenty of times where, sure, I'd much rather have a bowl of ice cream, but I have some fruit. Pardon my French, I F how I feel and have a bowl of fruit. And then I let myself feel how I feel. And 99 times out of 100, I feel in a completely different way after having the fruit than I did before. The difference and time between how we feel before we do something until when we do it, that's the hardest part, right? That gap, right? So we feel a certain way, we want to do a certain thing, or we want to let inertia continue to take us a certain way. And that gap where we act, where we choose the bowl of fruit or we choose the ice cream, whatever it might be, that gap is where all the magic happens, this gap, right? And if you can just say to yourself, all right, I know how I feel. Despite how I feel, I'm going to have the fruit, or despite how I feel, I'm going to go for a walk, or despite how I feel, I'm going to, change my, I'm going to put my phone down, whatever it might be. Like those are the types of things where it can absolutely change how you feel, and because you change your actions.
Yeah. And I think even more value out of that is it also changes how you perceive yourself, right? Like it's, yes, change your feelings, but also change your perception of yourself. All of a sudden, if you give yourself that opportunity to take action in that space, you become somebody new as well, right? You may still do the other thing afterward, right? I give my clients that permission all the time. I'm like, fine. Like you want to eat whatever you want to eat at this point in time, go for it.
Right.
However, before you do, take a new action.
Yep.
Take a new action and give yourself the opportunity to become a newer version of yourself.
Right.
Right. And along with that, some really cool feelings because you're like, wow, okay, like possibility exists.
Totally. A pattern of behaviors, right? Like let's say you have a typical pattern of you put your kids to bed, or it's after a long day work, you plop on the couch, and there's a series of behaviors that happens. And because you're doing those series of behaviors, certain feelings follow those, right? It's amazing to me, though, how you can absolutely change that pattern of behavior by changing that first action, that first behavior. So instead of maybe plopping on the couch, it could be sitting on a kitchen stool or sitting on a kitchen table. Even just the difference of where you sit and what you're sitting on could totally impact the actions you take throughout the night and the feelings that you feel because of that.
100%. You couldn't be more right. And actually, that's how I overcame that exact pattern you just described, where I put the kids to bed, plop on the couch, have a snack,
Right.
right? Stay up late. I put myself on the floor.
Right.
Sit on the floor instead.
Yep.
It's not as comfy down there as it turns out. Plus, if I'm laying down, I don't want to be eating.
Totally.
So it did.
Totally.
It did change things.
For me, putting my phone in a different room, from certain hours has really helped a lot because, again, inertia, the default behavior was, all right, just scroll your phone. And like, I didn't want to do that. But not having that phone there totally changes it. Right now I read, now I do other things. It's been a game changer. So what I really want you to think about is, and again, I'm not, believe me, I get feelings. I totally get it, but try to take the action despite how you feel. let the actions dictate your feelings, not let your feelings dictate your actions. Like that to me is something I try to share with my kids all the time, because yeah, they might not feel like, for example, right? Like sometimes my youngest boy, like, you know, he, like most people, like he goes to a party, he might not know, like he has is invited to a party, he might not know a bunch of kids, he only knows a few kids, he's a little worried, he's a little anxious, right? And it's like, we can talk about it all day long, but it's also like, all right, just go there, I'll stay with you, get into the party for like the first 10 minutes, right? Like that, I know like once he's there, he'll be fine. It's that initial oomph we all need. And once he's there, he's fine, right? And it's like, we acted first. He got into the party, he was in the mix, he was in the party, and then great. And then he started feeling better, he started feeling more comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you just never know, right? Like, again, that's giving yourself opportunity. Act to give yourself the opportunity to feel something slightly different, to experience something slightly different, right? Because we're all out there wanting different things, wanting new things. And the only way to achieve that is to act in a new way. So we have to practice letting action be our guide.
Right. And I'm just like, yes, on the surface, it sounds so obvious and it sounds like common sense, but it's not common practice, because I know our default behavior for most of us is we let inertia take over and we let the feelings continue to dictate our actions, right? What I'm asking you to do, what Haley's asking you to do, what we're challenging you to do, and ourselves, is when you feel a certain way and you're not loving how you feel, instead of letting yourself ruminate in those feelings, immediately think, what action can I take right now to change how I feel? That's the goal, right? That's what we want you to do. That's what I ask of myself and clients, right? Instead of letting the feelings dictate, what can I do right now to change how I feel? What action can I take?
I like it. That's really clear. So that's your homework assignment, folks. If you're listening, tuning in, we would love to know, what small action can you take to change the course of how you're feeling? Shoot Adam an email. Let us know. Put this in practice, right? Let's make it common practice to act despite how we feel.
Yep. And
Anything else, Adam?
no, and just, to your point that you said small, like, and again, I know sometimes feelings can be very overwhelming, right? We feel like a slug, we don't want to do anything. I get that. The best question to ask yourself in that case is, what's the smallest action I can take, right? Literally just putting on your sneakers could be the first action you take when you say, you want to move, you need to move, but you don't feel like it. First step, first action, put on those sneakers. Then once you put on those sneakers, see how you feel. Let each step, let each action dictate the feelings, not the other way around.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's all we have today. We look forward to hearing from you. And until we see you again, take good care.